welcome to Today in Woburn. I'm your host, Samantha Stone, on this hot, beautiful, sunny spring day. Welcome, Scott. We've got a ton of people to talk to today. Lots of stuff going around across the city. How you doing?
Doing well, thank you. How about yourself?
Good, 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 good. I'm enjoying the longer days. I don't like the getting dark so early in the
good sunlight.
Yeah. So I wanted to talk about a few things that were happening, but first and foremost, any budgeting updates we should know from the last conversation we had last week?
No, simply that Thursday I'll call the special meeting for the city council at 5:30. I'll introduce the budget and submit my letter with it. And then the city council has set up committee meetings to go over with each department head or the department heads that they choose to have come in to explain their budget. And then on top of that, we'll finalize the capital, and the plan is to have capital submitted first meeting in June, which I think is June 7th or 6th. Their first full meeting. So we got a lot of things going on with the budget, and it's an exciting time of the year for that too.
Yeah, good. It is exciting, and it's important because all the things we want to do rely on that budget, right? So. Yep. Excellent. There are a few little things happening across the city I thought I'd mention, one of which is the library has put out a survey to collect feedback, type of programming people want. So if you love our library as much as I do and the space and are looking for input, I really encourage you to fill out the survey. They're also hosting some focus groups, which is awesome. So it gives you an opportunity to meet some of your fellow library lovers. So I encourage people to go out and check that out.
Good.
We have a ton going on with Woburn and Rec. Pool opening day, June 27th, it looks like.
That's right, yeah.
And lots of movie nights this year outdoors for folks and all kinds of
exciting, and we've also got, there's some good things going on with Rec, and it's always, I like when Rory comes on, but we've got, we've appropriated about $50,000 to begin the new design study for the Shamrock pool, which would be not a pool anymore, which I don't want people to get too nervous, but it'll be a splash park. So I think people will be very pleased with that. We'll have some public hearings, get some input, and excited about having a big splash park. The one at Fleming Field is doing really well. So we're expecting this to be a bigger size splash park, and it'll really be, we think it'll be a great plus for the city.
And there's already bathrooms there, so we'll be able to keep those for the little toddlers, right?
We're going to remodel those, so they'll be new and improved, Samantha. So I think people like that.
Oh, I like that. You mean grungy old bathrooms aren't top of our list?
Yeah, that's right.
I think that's great. It's good to know, and definitely people should get involved and participate.
Without a doubt, that's important.
Yeah. The other area that we should get involved in, we won't talk a lot about this today. We might try and have a guest come on to talk more, but I do want to mention the MBTA is looking at increasing and changing some of the services of commuters that go into Boston through better access. And there's open meetings and surveys, and Jen will make sure that all that stuff appears on screen for people. But it's really critical for us as residents to communicate and participate in that process, because these are decisions that they're going to make based in big part on public input. So if you
I think
use it,
it's important. We just got off Tina Cassidy and I just got off the phone with Rich Haggerty. It's important. I hope I hope they listen. I hope it doesn't become an exercise in futility where they've made up their mind and they've got different ideas about how they want to go. But it'll be a big change for the people who depend on going directly into State Street from City Hall. So we're concerned about it, and I know they're having the meeting. I think is June 26th. I don't want to give the wrong date, but it's coming up, and that's for 12 communities to have their input. That's a lot of people getting on a virtual call. So there could be quite a bit of frustration. I just hope it's one of those meetings where they listen to everybody, particularly in the city of Woburn, where we have a very well utilized bus that goes directly into State Street. So we're concerned about it.
Yeah, so please, if you know people who take that bus, make sure that they are represented on these calls and also filling out they have a written request for people to participate that way as well. And just continue to advocate for the things. There's some good things they're proposing, so but the changes will impact people. So make sure you're familiar with those. The last little thing on my list, Scott, I wanted to mention for folks is I think the first time, but certainly the first time in recent history, Woburn High graduation will be happening on a Friday night. I think it's a week from Friday, if I have my dates correct, not on a Sunday. And I only mention that if you have a graduate, you probably already know that, but I mention it for those of us who commute around the high school, because there's an awful lot of people who will be going to graduation and looking for parking. So just plan and know accordingly that will be happening in that area.
I think the plans, we met at Principal Callahan's office last week with school officials, DPW, police, fire. And I think it's going to be, the plans are no different than on a Sunday, except it's on a Friday evening, but you do have to be aware it'll be darker, and when people are leaving, it's not, we'll have to be more careful, like you said, when you're driving around the school. So it's going to be great for first time ever on a Friday evening. So it'll be a good night.
It'll be fun and a little less hot for people. And I think the community should know, I think this was derived from a student representative sort of coming and making the request. So yeah. It's kind of fun that I think and great that we were able to listen to students who had an interest in making this change for a variety of reasons. And it was, the schools were able to accommodate it.
Couple of good things. I'm going to get off because I know Bobby's got a lot to say, and Allie's got some good things to give you updates on. But the city is right now. We're in the process of setting up a stormwater utility. So we'll be. I know we talked to you about that, Samantha. That's really important with with all the issues around stormwater, and we'll be doing more of that in the coming months. So I think it'd be great to have the city engineer and DPW on to talk a little bit about that and how it impacts our water. So that's a good one. I know Kathy Lucero has those trolley tours. I don't know if you've already had her on, but she'd be a great guest to talk about. I know she's got the veterans involved and my office. And again, we're doing that. When I talked to you about that, the student banners are going to be, there'll be a ceremony on June 3rd. And lastly, a little bit more controversial, I want you to keep this on your calendar, but I did submit to the city council a zoning change to allow recreational marijuana up in the IP2 zone. As you know, right now, all we have is medicinal marijuana, and that's in the IP2, but this would expand to allow for a recreational marijuana up in the IP2 zone, which I think the time has come. And I know there are some concerns which are valid from the city council, but I think we have the answers to let them know why the time is right now to do it. So I'd be happy to get talking to you about that over the next couple of weeks too.
Yeah, well, definitely. Let's have a conversation about that. I think we have a lot. The good thing is there's a lot of models of other communities who have done that. And for the most part, I think those have gone well, but it'll be great to have that conversation.
That's a great point. And I feel just like you, that it's been over 4 years. And I think we were right to hesitate at the time without knowing, how it would impact communities. But as you've seen, there are a lot of really solid models, and there's some real pluses to doing it. So we'll talk about that, and we'll have some guests on to supplement my conversations too.
Yeah, I look forward to doing that. Before I let you go, I just wanted to give a huge shout out to DPW. I think it's DTW. There was a really awful bump in the road going into the rotary over by getting on to 95 over by Stop and Shop.
Right by the fire station, yeah.
And I'm sure it was, you kind of sort of little rocket ship ride you were having fixed, and it's lovely. And I'm so grateful because my husband and I, who used to do paving, joked about it quite a lot. And it was great that it actually got fixed rather quickly. And I know that, that road isn't always even easy to know who should be repairing it and all that. So thank you to whoever made that happen.
That sounds good. I second that, Samantha.
Awesome. Thanks, Scott, for joining us. We'll talk again.
See you guys. Take care.
Thank you. Well, welcome to the rest of our folks here. Bob, I'm going to have you come on next. I'm super excited to be chatting with you about all the good work and and your relatively new position. Tell us a little bit about what inspired you to take on this responsibility.
I guess my first taste of the public sector was after I got out of the Marine Corps. I worked as the athletic director at the Boys and Girls Club for 4 years, and I saw the amount of, community support, the volunteerism throughout community, throughout the folks, whether it be the board members, coaches, the number of parents that were involved in the youth programs. And it was something that, was really inspirational to see. But at that time, I was, pretty young, 26 years old. So I decided that I'd try my hand in the cable world, and I went to work for Comcast. And after 23 years working for Comcast, I figured, well, let's give something else a whirl. And like I said, obviously I was in the Marine Corps. I'm a veteran. I'm a proud veteran. I've seen the amount. I used to go to the VFW or the Legion, get involved with the decorating at the cemeteries, and saw the amount of effort and work that went into that. I had come down and visited Larry here a couple of times. So I saw from afar what went on, not really the inner workings. He told me back in November, I was speaking to him, I found out that the opportunity had allotted itself for the position, was coming available. So I said, why not throw my hat in it? Threw my hat in it, and here we are talking now. And I'll tell you, as I said, from afar, as to what goes into this, it's neat to look at it, see a couple parades, things like that, some stuff that we'll get into in a few minutes. But the amount of folks that come in to support veterans, not only veterans, the senior center, obviously I see a lot of folks that walk through here. It's truly inspirational, and pretty happy to be here, and can't wait to really get into things this week.
Well, we're thrilled for you to be there. And I know that a lot of times the things that we see overtly sort of on the day-to-day are things like the parades and things that we'll talk a little bit about what we're doing for Memorial Day. But there's also a lot of resources and sharing things that happens behind the scenes to help people as well. And so I know it's a lot of work. Thank you for doing it. We're thrilled to recognize. And I think Woburn as a city has done always a nice job of honoring those who serve our country. And we have wonderful ways in the cemetery and the services and the center of town, the wonderful tributes and monuments that we have there. So let's talk Memorial Day, because I can't believe it, but it's this coming Monday. It feels like
it is, nor can I. That came
so quickly. Tell us, you've been working hard. Tell us what's going on this year.
So we have a host of events. So our first event will kick off. Well, let me back up. So we've been working on quite a bit of stuff since last week. Obviously, the preparation goes into further than that. But this week alone, we decorated 55 veteran squares around the city. Also, if anyone had a look, there's 64 banners downtown, and those represent from World War I through the global war on terror. Woburn as a community has lost 144 servicemen. So there's 64 of them, those banners that are dedicated right now downtown. So our first event will be coming up at the Senior Center. So it's kind of a dual event. It's us in the Senior Center. So we'll have that Thursday, the 26th. We also have 10 public school ceremonies that we'll have a veteran speaker going to each of the schools. Those are kind of spread out. So I think one of those kicks off Thursday. The majority of them are Friday, the 27th. Then we have another one on the 31st. So we'll have a speaker at each of those events. Kind of keep it light for the students, some show and tell. Won't give everything away, but a few show and tell, stuff like that. On the 27th, we'll go ahead and decorate Calvary Cemetery. So 9 o'clock, the American Legion takes about 12 cases. So that's around 1,000 flags that will go on. And that's on the 27th, Friday morning. Saturday morning, the VFW handles the Woodbrook Cemetery. So we'll do the soldiers lot, which is inclusive of 604 servicemen and women buried in the soldiers lot. And then obviously throughout Woodbrook, it'll entail the whole cemetery. So we'll probably do another 12 or 13 cases of flags there. Saturday, the 28th, we have a Memorial Day Little League tournament up at Weaver Park. So Mark Camaro from Andover, who's on the Woburn Little League Board of Directors, I kind of put that together. We have the Legion, the VFW, and 4 other VSOs. I believe it's Stoneham, Wakefield. There's a couple towns included in that as well. But we will also be honoring a family here from Woburn who had a family member that was the last person that was killed in action in Vietnam. So we're going to recognize that family, have one of those family members, their grandchild, throw out the first pitch. And then on Monday, we will go ahead and have the event downtown. So we'll start from the Armory, right across from the bank where the Armory is. We'll march on to the Common. We'll have our ceremony at the Common. Once we get through at the Common, we will head up to Woodbrook, march up to Woodbrook, get up to Woodbrook. We'll also do a cemetery at the Soldiers Lot there. We will get on some buses, have the buses head over to Central Street, and then we will march from the fire station at Central Street, head down to the Jewish cemetery, have a small little ceremony there, and then we'll continue on down, and then we'll conclude things at the end of Calvary.
That's amazing. Thank you. I had no idea so many things were happening. Thank you for going through that. And if somebody wants to find out the times of all these things or if they want to volunteer to help put out flags and stuff, is all that stuff on?
Sure, yeah, that should go out. That will go out probably tomorrow evening in each media outlet. So we sent all that off last week, the week before. So they'll probably post that back into the newspaper, I believe, tomorrow evening.
Great. So go out and look for it. Lots and lots of ways to honor people who have served. For those folks who maybe aren't going to be in town for the weekend, they might be out of town, but they want to do something to honor those folks who have served. What are some other ways they might be able to do that?
Sure. I think just taking some time aside to think about, there was 1,304,702 veterans since our first combat here in the United States that have paid the ultimate sacrifice. So I think folks just, take some time to think about what they can do, to be, just, I guess, not part of any particular ceremony, but taking time out during the day, talk to family members, talk to folks about little different things. I told some folks, Google some interesting facts about Memorial Day. Talk to it with your family members. Take a stroll through a cemetery. What are, on a veteran's grave, you'll see coins. What do those coins mean? There's a penny on there. What does a penny mean? You see the gold star. Walk around Horn Pond, go down near the public bathrooms. You'll see an American flag with a gold star underneath it, a gold star flag. What does that gold star represent? Tell your family members. Let your children know about that, or just taking time out to reflect, to those folks who just took on so much more than, just oneself.
Fantastic. Bob, thank you so much for joining me. We'll connect again, I'm sure, as new things get scheduled and activities, but thank you for leading the charge here and for helping us find so many ways that we in Woburn can help honor those who sacrificed their lives.
No, thank you so much for the opportunity.
It's great to see you.
Very much appreciated.
Yeah. We're going to change topics completely now and introduce Diane. Welcome, Diane.
Hi, Samantha. Thanks for inviting me.
I'm not going to attempt to pronounce your last name because I'm going to do a terrible job. So please pronounce it for us.
It's Fruguglietti.
Thank you. And I would not have gotten that right. So so grateful you decided to join us today. One of the things you had recently posted about sort of pollinator friendly yards, and it caught my attention. And I wanted to learn a little bit more. So thanks for joining me to do that. Tell me a little bit about why some of that is so important. Why is it important that we provide an environment that is pollinator friendly?
So all the pollinators, bees and butterflies and birds are declining, and they're super important for our crops, because if we don't have any pollinators, we're not going to have any fruits or vegetables. So I've learned a lot in the last 3 years. I've planted tons of native plants in my yard. And Doug Tallamy, he's an author and an entomologist, and he's written a bunch of books, one called Bringing Nature Home, which I highly recommend. He says that you should have at least 70% native plants in your yard, and you can have 30% or less non-native plants. But the important point is that just because you have flowering plants in your yard doesn't mean the pollinators are going to them, because they don't feed on non-native plants.
That is really good to know. I would not have realized that.
That was the turning point for me because, you know, I would always hear about natives and I'm like, oh, I've got plenty of flowers. I see bees, but that, you know, the caterpillars won't eat the plants. The birds don't have any food to eat because there's no caterpillars.
You know, one of the things that I really liked about something I've been reading about, sort of this no mow May movement, and I liked it because I didn't have to do something, right? Like it was really great, you know, like I didn't have to nag my family to mow the lawn for a month. Actually, my husband's great. He's obsessed with keeping the lawn looking nice. I'm not such a gardener, but tell us a little bit about what that movement is. So for someone who isn't really have a lot of outdoor space or hasn't gardened or isn't prepared to plant new plants right now, this is an easy thing that they can do.
Exactly. Yeah, I think I'm the only one in the neighborhood who hasn't mowed my lawn yet. Dandelions, violets, clover, they all come up in your grass and they're actually really important for the pollinators when if there's nothing else there. That's what they depend on. So leave the dandelions, leave the violets, and you know, it really helps. You should have something that's flowering all season, like all summer basically. Things flower in different patterns. So you got to have something for early spring, late spring, early summer, so forth.
Well, I have a terrible black thumb. It is a skill that I don't have, but I have a vision that someday I'm going to work on that skill and I'm going to get better at doing that. And this is a very good reason to start thinking about that. Any other quick tips for folks who are looking at their yards and trying to figure out what they're going to do now that the freezing evenings are gone? People are really starting to do their plantings and such. Anything else you want them to know?
Well, there's so much. One thing you should do is try to remove invasives. Like if you go down any of these streets, you'll see garlic mustard. It's flowering right now. It's white. Everyone thinks it looks pretty, but it destroys the soil. Nothing will grow there if you don't pull it out.
And that is very good to know.
Yeah, and it's terrible because, you know I live near Lowell Street, near the school that they built, and you know, the city comes to clear the brush that's close to the sidewalk, and all the good stuff gets killed and all the bad stuff comes up. Japanese knotweed, it can destroy foundations. I mean, it's just incredible. So that's one thing. Try to get rid of all these non-native invasive things. Black swallowwort, it's another plant that looks like a milkweed, which the monarchs feed on, but it's poisonous to monarch butterflies. So they'll lay their eggs on there and the caterpillars will eat the leaves and die. So, you know, if you walk around town, you see black swallowwort, you should pull it out. Get rid of it out of your yard.
Those are great tips. I want to ask you about something. So one of the things that there are friendly bees that are pollinators and we want to support, and butterflies, and I always think bees, but you're right, there's birds and butterflies and other things as well. But there's these nasty things that don't serve that purpose, like wasps.
Yes.
And sometimes in our attempt to eradicate wasps, we do some things that maybe harm some of the animals and insects that we don't want to have harm. Do you have any good suggestions for things we should be thinking about if we do have wasps that we want to eliminate or other harmful insects?
Well, they're not that bad, believe it or not. They do serve a purpose, but they could kill the beneficial bees too. So the best thing is just to try to keep garbage covered, you know, keep water at a minimum, even though you really should provide water for bees. And actually another tip is if you have a very shallow dish of water and you put a rock in it, it's good so that if a bee falls in to get a drink, and that way he won't drown, he can climb up onto the rock and get out. But yeah, as far as getting rid of the bad stuff, I used to get yellow jackets under the railings of my deck. So at night I would go and take their nests off because they're not really flying at night. So
yeah, you know, one of the things that I found, and this sounded ridiculous to me when I did it, but I had a real wasp issue and I'm allergic to them. So I was particularly sensitive to, I really couldn't get, and I couldn't relax because I was always worried that those buggers were going to get me. And I got desperate and I was looking up online and looking for all these things. And I found these fake wasp nests. They're actually little knit things. I happen to get them on Etsy. You can get them in other places, I'm sure. And I thought, there's no way this is going to work, but I am desperate enough that I'm going to buy a bunch of these fake wasp nests. And wouldn't you know, I wouldn't say you never see one, but the percent that I see is so dramatically cut back. It was really interesting. And so I was shocked, but they did work. And they largely work because wasps are territorial. So if they see a nest, and apparently their eyesight isn't good enough to know that that knit nest isn't a real one. So I don't know if it works for everything, but for me personally, I've had some good success with it. And, obviously I'm not having to use any pesticide or anything to do that.
Yes. Yeah, that's the other thing, neonicotinoids. I don't know if you've heard about them, but a lot of nurseries will spray these on their plants, so that they're healthier, but they're not really healthier for the bees because it will kill the bees. So there's a movement to contact, Lowe's and Home Depot and all these places that sell plants with that poison on them to stop using it.
Well, thank you for helping us think about things that we can do to help protect the really important pollinators in our yards. So if you haven't mowed, you now have an excuse. You can tell people that it's not that I haven't mowed my lawn, I'm making it pollinator friendly. So
exactly.
I'm sure there's a limit where you don't want to make it tick friendly either.
Right.
So you got to find that right balance. But what a fun thing to be thinking about this spring.
And one other thing, in the fall, you shouldn't rake the leaves out of your garden because the caterpillars nest in them, and they also nest in the stems of your perennials. So don't cut them down, wait till the spring when it's like consistently above 50 degrees.
Wow, I always thought I was just lazy not pulling those things out, but now I have a good excuse for it because I'll know I'm protecting my caterpillars. Well, Thank you again, Diane. We really appreciate you joining us.
Thanks,
and Alyson, I'm so excited to have you on board with us, and welcome.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
So congratulations are in order. I understand you had a baby recently. How's it feel to be back?
Feels really good. I had my third child on March 4th, so we're just adjusting to life with 3.
Yeah,
It's been interesting, but it's beautiful, and it's nice to be back.
And I bet you it's nice to be able to be outside when you've got 3, when you got that many.
Yes, they get a lot of energy outside.
I love it. One of the things that I know I'm seeing in my personal life, but many of us we've seen teachers out that there's a COVID spike. I mean, luckily the seriousness of the illness isn't what it was months or years ago at this point, but there's a lot of people who are catching COVID and having plans and such disrupted, and some still get very sick from that. What are some of your best tips? What should families and people be doing to just sort of live in the current environment that we're in, but to do so in a way that maybe limits the chances of catching or spreading?
So it's important to keep living life, but you want to make sure you're encouraging proper hand washing. If you can't use soap and water, you want to use an alcohol-based gel. You want to make sure you're covering your mouth and your nose when you're sneezing or coughing. If you're avoiding overcrowded areas, if people are sneezing and coughing around you. But it's also really important for people to stay home when they're sick, whether it's from work or from their daily activities. There's still opportunities for people to get vaccinated. Everybody over the age of 5 has the opportunity. So Pfizer can be given to people 5+, and Moderna can be given to people 18 years and plus. And currently we're not holding any vaccine clinics, but if anybody's having trouble finding a vaccine, we're more than happy to help you find one at a CVS or a local Walgreens if you do need one.
That's great. And I know the senior center has transportation and there's other transportation needs for those who need help doing that. That's great. We've spent a lot of time over the last couple of years, as everyone else, thinking from the Board of Health around COVID and protecting our community, because there's just so much that was new for us. But the Board of Health does a lot, and way more than I think I ever realized. And one of the things I found out recently is I recently had to start taking a new medication, and I need needle disposal as a result of that. And I was kind of like it's just me. I don't need like a whole service. What am I going to do? And I was, and I looked on the site and saw that you have a needle disposal that residents can use to safely dispose of those things. And I had no idea that that existed. So for those folks who might be like me, tell us a little bit about how they can use that and where it's located.
Woburn residents are able to use the Sharps disposal. It's down at City Hall in the Woburn Board of Health. And you can have about a 1 gallon or less container that can go into the Sharps collection site that's emptied every couple of weeks. If you have questions regarding whether or not your container will fit in this collection site, you can reach out to Trish at the Board of Health. And the main number for that is 781-897-5920.
Awesome.
And she can tell you if the bin is able to accommodate your needs.
Awesome. Thank you. What I know there's a ton of other things that are happening. I've seen things like blood pressure clinics and lots of other stuff. What are some things that residents should know about?
So we're currently revising a schedule for blood pressure clinics and screenings. And as soon as we do have that up, it'll be posted on the website. We also work collaboratively with the schools. So we want to ensure that all children are properly vaccinated for the beginning of school or during the year in general. So we work with the school nurses and the administrators in order to make that happen.
That's fantastic. The other thing that we cannot deny is that we had a very hot weekend and more hot weather to come. And the heat, it can be super fun and exciting. And we, opened up the spray park early and things, but it can also be make us prone to heat stroke and other things that might happen to folks who get overheated. What are some safety precautions you want our residents to be thinking about?
So we want people to be spending time outside. We don't want people to be spending all day indoors. We want to make sure you're taking breaks from the sun, find air-conditioned spots such as libraries and malls. Wearing hats or sunscreen are good precautions as well. Lightweight and light colored clothing. You want to stay hydrated, drinking plenty of water or other non-alcoholic beverages. If you have family or friends that are at higher risk for a heat-related illness, such as the elderly, infants and children, or medically compromised individuals, you want to make sure to check on them frequently. For people who could possibly have heat stroke, the symptoms with that would be a very high body temperature, red, hot, and dry skin. They could have a rapid pulse. Any of these, you will want to make sure to get them emergency medical attention and call 911 immediately. And with the summer heat, you also worry about accidental drowning. So you want to make sure that children are not around water unsupervised. So having a CPR background can make or break a survival if you're waiting for paramedics to arrive. So the CDC does have a lot of resources on how to become CPR certified under drowning prevention. Another big thing about the heat with children is you want to make sure that they're never left in a parked closed vehicle, and that goes along for pets as well.
Thank you for reminding us all of that. I know I try and bring, extra water and things with me, just, in anticipating the extra heat. I know that water isn't always the best thing if you're dehydrated and it's really high heat. What other things should people actually do to actually rehydrate themselves?
So Gatorade can also be good. It has electrolytes in it. You want to drink water, but obviously you want to get in a cool place. You could fan yourself. You could make sure there's a cool mist.
Yeah, great. So thank you for all those wonderful reminders. Thank you for the hard work that you and your colleagues do. There's so much that happens behind the scenes that we never see. So we're so grateful to see your face and have you join us. And Woburn, as always, please continue to take good care of each other.